This is Super SaaS Bros with Cory and Jayde. Let's jump in. Hey, Jayde.
Hey, what's up, man?
I'm doing good. How's your week been?
My week's been, you know what? It's kind of been a bit of a stressful week this week. Yeah, not gonna lie, it's kind of been a little stressful, but like all things, you kind of just put one foot in front of the other. How's your week going?
Dude, my week's been great. I've been so busy, but I honestly just enjoying every little bit of it. I was saying in our team meeting before you joined on, I was like, I'm a very, very optimistic guy. I'm very happy. There's very little things that like put me down. So even if I'm like super busy, I somehow just try to smile right through it.
Totally. Actually,
Yeah.
that's a great talking point. How do you handle constantly staying optimistic when at times it can feel like, the world's just burning around you?
When you say that, I think of that meme where that dog's just sitting in the fire and he's like, everything's fine.
Everything's
Just drink your
fine.
cup of coffee.
I'm fine.
Yeah, man. I mean, the way, I don't know, like part of it is just inherent to who I am. Like like I said, I'm just a positive guy. So like even when things are really shit, like I try to see the positive in everything. But when things are just overwhelming, piling up for me, I tend to actually take a step away from what I'm doing. So I try to do a lot of things for me. So even on really, really busy days, carving out time for yourself for me is super important. So like working out, all the typical stuff that people talk about. But it's even the small things, like having enough water in the day, like eating enough food. That literally that simple stuff helps more than people think. So that's kind of how I deal through it. Like, I don't know, don't get me wrong, like there are days where I do feel exhausted and I feel like the world is against me a little bit, but I try to remind myself why I'm doing what I'm doing, which is like when we did the goal and vision planning and we wrote everything down, I go back to this every single day to remind myself like why I'm doing it, because it can be hard once you're deep in it. You're doing maybe some boring stuff and it's just repetitive and you got to remind yourself why you're doing it. So yeah, I think those are kind of the things I try to deal with it.
Yeah, your why is bigger than the reason for the stress.
That is a very succinct way to describe it. Yes.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Love that. Always just kind of going back to the foundation of the why. I love that.
Yeah. How about you? Like, what do you feel works for you? Because I'm sure you've tried different things, but like when you feel down or feel like the world is against you as you're working through stuff, like how do you try to get over it?
Oh, dude, I'm not perfect at it. I mean, a lot of the times I struggle with sleep. Like I struggle with like trying to, keep my head on my shoulders and making sure that I'm able to kind of proceed throughout the day with a clear mind, especially when you're, talking to clients or just talking to other people and just trying to stay optimistic throughout that time. And then in the back of your head, you're like, you're I wouldn't say trying to hide your stress, but yeah, maybe that's a better way. Yeah, maybe like just trying to hide your stress and just go on throughout the day. I've tried, getting out into nature. I've tried working out, going for walks, but meditating. Sometimes it works, sometimes not so much. Sometimes I feel guilty going out and going out into nature, or sometimes I'm at the gym and I'm like, I really have this thing to do, like I'm wasting my time, and it eats at me. So I'm not perfect. I'm still trying to work at it. I'm still trying to figure it out. So yeah, I mean, anybody has any advice or opinions on how to kind of cope with this stuff? Yeah.
No, okay. I'm curious. If when you're working, so I'll reverse back a bit. I've been prone to this myself, but when I need to be productive, I need to get a lot of stuff done, but there is a lot of things. I get sometimes stuck in the phase of like procrastination to almost like avoid the work, knowing I need to do the work. It's a very toxic cycle.
Sure.
Do you ever get stuck in that? I was always curious. I don't know if I've ever asked you.
Actually, one thing I can say is I don't really procrastinate, and that's just because I get really guilty and I struggle with guilt. Like I need to do it, otherwise I I don't know, I feel like I'm wasting my time, my energy, and my attitude is just negative. So I need to finish it so that I can enjoy my day. It's kind of like eating your vegetables to enjoy your steak, right? Like that's how I am. I actually won't really even touch my steak until I'm like, I've got the vegetables, I got the nutrients, now let me enjoy my food, you know?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know. I don't know, maybe it's just how it's wired growing up, but
That's crazy.
yeah, that's kind of how I deal with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't really procrastinate. So we're a bit different in that way. For me, it's like when there's too many things piling up, I think too much about what needs to be done versus actually doing what needs to be done. So part of like what I've been working on the last, I guess, couple of years now
Okay.
is trying to put myself in a space where there is no distractions. There is nothing else that needs to be done other than the work in front of me.
Yeah.
So that's how I try to set myself up for success, by like using my environment.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, like even my phone, like I'll turn off my notifications, I'll put it on do not disturb or work or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll listen to like instrumental music and just set myself in a flow so I can do work. Otherwise, I will procrastinate.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So I've found actually something that's helped me with that is there's a law. I can't remember what it's called, but basically the amount of time that you allot to do something is that's the amount of time it's gonna take you to do it, right?
Yeah.
Just like every time in school, your time is due in a month. Guess how long it's gonna take you? A month that you probably do it the night before, 2 days before.
Do today, right?
Yeah, do today, exactly. So for me, what I've tried to do is trick my mind on like, okay, I know how much work there is to be done. This will probably take me about a week. Let's see if I can get this done today. Almost like play a game with myself and like try and challenge myself to how can I work like smart and not hard, in the sense that why should this take me a week? Like, what about this makes it a week? A week is just an arbitrary kind of time duration, right?
Yeah.
So how can I make this actually be done in a day? Because there's definitely things that I can do to make my efficiency 7 times faster, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of how I deal with that.
Interesting. I should try doing some of this test of like, if I give myself a week to do something, to be like, how do I finish this today?
How do I finish this today? How do I finish this in 3 hours, in an hour? Like, yeah, without compromising quality, right?
Yeah, because then you ask the question, just because it can be done, should it be done in that time, right?
Yeah.
Are you more efficient and you're going to
Yeah.
have a higher quality product doing it over like 3 days versus like just slamming it in like 2 hours?
Yeah. Time duration to me is just arbitrary. So
Yeah.
like, what does this definition of success look like? Understanding that, and then seeing how you can make yourself more efficient so that you can complete it. Yeah. Getting help, finding resources. It's 2025. Like, there's so many resources out there that however long it would have taken you 10 years ago, you know, back in high school, or for us was college, to now it should literally take you 10 a fraction, so 1/10 of the time in some cases. Yeah.
So curious, I'm making a relation now to the work that we actually do.
Yeah.
We're in the software development business.
Yeah.
We're obviously building assets, but part of it is like the project management. So this, I don't want to call it a theory, but this like concept of time and then when work is done. How do you feel about that with like setting timelines in projects? So if we say something's going to be done in like 4 months,
Yeah.
it's going to take 4 months. But would we feel better about trying to figure out how to do it in a month?
So I would say there's like there's 2 things. There's if a project we believe is going to take, we quoted at 4 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a conservative approach because we know that there's always going to be things that arise that we didn't foresee. The challenges are going to come up, obstacles we're going to face to try and figure that out.
Yeah.
So this is really to help set the client's expectation that we understand this, and we know that if we give you a month and something blows up, we've now overpromised and under-delivered.
True.
Or I would rather promise 4 months, and if we deliver it in 2, it's like
It's a huge win.
it's a huge win. Yeah, it's a huge win. So
Yeah.
Just so if we say 4 months, it doesn't necessarily mean that the project's going to take 4 months, right? It could take 3 months. It could take 5 months, right? And it's just kind of building and working with the client to make sure that they understand that, which is why we usually give a range. But that's what I would say to that. Yeah.
I think too, it's probably a bit about efficiency to each milestone. Like we'll happily work as efficiently as we can to get to the first milestone, or the first, maybe not milestone, but like first like learning like step, like to get their thoughts, their approval or whatever it might be on it. Because the faster we can get to each of those like learning stages, the easier you'll know if you need to like pivot or it'll take longer or shorter, whatever, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And we know that like more often than not, you know, we'll show something and then they'll be like, oh, can you do this? Can actually we change this? And it's just like, okay, so now you're kind of working within the scope to kind of, I would say, maybe pivot changes, add changes, update changes, you know, without trying to compromise your own time and effort to adding more things that are outside the scope, which I think can be a challenge on its own. Yeah. So just staying mindful of that. And that just comes with like experience. And it just comes with like how, like just building the relationship, building rapport with them. So,
because I think one of the hardest things as we were going through all this is, at least for me, is keeping things within scope of a project and not because I'm a nice guy. We want to help people, right? We want to like bring things to life, but it's not the danger, but like it is, you have to be careful about how much you add onto things into a project, because that's then how you can go from something that you quote at 4 months to it being like an 8-month project. But you're the time that you want to commit and like what you guys agreed to up front was only 4 months.
We got some technical difficulties. There we go.
I got so excited I yanked my headphone cable out. We're definitely gonna keep this in.
There we go.
Sorry, I was going on a tangent there. I don't even know where I left off.
No, you're just talking about how a project can go from 4 months to 8 months, right? And just making sure that you're keeping things within scope and not.
Oh yeah, like I think learning how to say no nicely to a client is a skill that I feel like I know, because I've said you have to learn how to say no to other people, but saying no to a client that you want to keep happy, you want to make sure that whatever idea is actually coming to life and they're not disappointed with the end results, right? Especially if they're paying for it or have a partnership and all this stuff, right? So we wanted to make sure that it is exactly how they wanted it.
Totally, yeah. So like, you know, they come to us with something that they want to build because they see a problem in their industry and they want a solution for it and they believe they fully understand the solution, right? So if we can promise that, right, whatever that single unit of a solution is, right, and continue to iterate around it and evolve it and build around it, it's a great problem to have. If they are seeing that the project is coming to fruition and the problem is being solved and they want to add features A to Z, it's a great problem to have. So I think it's just first understanding that, hey, what does success look like for you initially, right? And have we done that? And making sure that we have an agreed upon understanding of what success looks like. And then scoping out, what does success now look like? And then continuing that journey with them. Because you're right, like, why would we ever want to say no? Like we would never want to say no. It's just management. That's all it is. So.
Yeah. I would never want to say no, and from the pure purpose of like, oh well, you didn't pay us for it. Like we're better than that, right? Like we want to help. Like there's a higher purpose to like these projects. They're bringing innovation, and we want to help be on the forefront of that, right? So, but have you ever dealt with projects in the past or anything where like things were coming in and being asked that were just like way out of scope from it, and how did you handle it?
Exactly like that. Making sure that we have an agreed upon understanding of what success looks like when we first scoped out the project, and ensuring that we have completed the project to what we agree is 100% success. And then anything additional, it's like, I always want to kind of prefix conversation and a relationship with like, we want this to be a long-term relationship, right? If anything else kind of arises that you want us to do, we're happy to continue to scope out more and more and build this out for you. And there's different ways you can do that, whether it's a partnership, a retainer agreement, whatever it is. I think there's a great way to always keep a healthy relationship and a long-lasting relationship. So that's how I always approach it, and that's how I've always approached it. It's just ensuring that they are getting value. That's my number one concern, is that they have gotten what they asked for and continuing to get value as the project goes on.
Yeah, they should absolutely feel that way. I forget if it was Hermosi that said it, but honestly, like the way they should feel for whatever they pay or whatever the agreements of a payment was, is that they feel that they get like 10 times what they paid for it.
Totally.
That's the value relation that they should feel when the project is done. So yeah, we want to try to deliver that or more every time, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Super SaaS Bros with Cory and Jayde. We'll see you next time.